Trade season has officially started for your Detroit Pistons as they have traded Rodney McGruder and the Brooklyn Nets second-round pick that they acquired for Bol Bol over in Denver. You guys all know who Bol Bol is. How fun is this experiment going to be? What does this mean? What do we know about Bol Bol? What to expect from him? Where is he going to be in the lineup? All that stuff, talking about the trade, will be talked about in today's episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast.
You are Locked On Pistons, your daily Detroit Pistons podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's the deal? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast. I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. You can also go check us out on YouTube if you haven't already at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button. I really appreciate it. Also, I'm your host, Kuka Hill. You can find me over on Twitter at Kuka Hill. Tweet at me anything you want. Talk about the podcast. I know last podcast we had was talked about a lot in the comment section on the YouTube. We almost crossed, I think we're at 98 comments over there. I had a lot of DMs over on Twitter, so always feel free to hit me up over on Twitter. If you're not watching on YouTube, you want to find a way to interact with me, hit me up on Twitter, and we can talk about whatever. But obviously, like I said in the cold open, the Pistons have gotten involved in the trade season early. It's January. You know, the trade deadline doesn't come around until around February, but they got into it a little bit early. And they have acquired Bol Bol from the Denver Nuggets. They traded Rodney McGruder and the second-round pick that belongs to the Brooklyn Nets this season for the interesting prospect over there in Denver. So to talk about all of that, we have one of our friends of the podcast. Obviously, you guys know who it is, Bryce Simon of the Motor City Hoops podcast. Bryce, thank you for coming on, man. How you doing?
I'm good, Koo. I feel like it's been like a week. I feel like I haven't been here forever. So I'm glad when you hit me up. I'm glad to be back. Got my new thread on from.
I was gonna say something about it. That looks nice. That looks nice.
My parents got me this for Christmas. Much appreciated, Mom and Dad. So
nice.
I'm slowly fitting the wardrobe a little bit more with Pistons gear. So, I'm excited to be on and talk some Pistons and a lot of Bol Bol.
Yep, obviously. So with today's trade, obviously it's going to be a majority Bol Bol podcast. If we have time at the end, we are going to talk about the hot topic of Killian Hayes that's been floating around the Pistons community. But I have a feeling that we might not get to it, but stay tuned to the end if you want to hear that. But yeah, Bryce, the Pistons just sent out Rodney McGruder and a second-round pick for Bol Bol. Just real quick, what were your initial thoughts of the trade? Did you know anything about Bol Bol? We kind of talked about it before we started recording that we've both done a little reading about him. You said you've dived into some film about him. But before you did all that, what were your initial thoughts on the trade before you went into all that research?
Sure. I'll save all that stuff. So my initial, I don't want to say it was an excitement, but right now with the Pistons, it kind of anytime there's a move like this, you get a little bit excited and kind of some energy and some juice, especially for a guy like Bol Bol. And that's what I was thinking. Like, this was a bigger name guy for a guy who hasn't necessarily produced a lot so far in his NBA career. So it definitely moves the needle in the sense that it blew Twitter up. People were talking about it. I had people texting me, like friends, like, oh, you guys got Bol Bol. What do you think? All of that. So in that way, it's exciting. It's a young guy who's uber skilled, Koo. I think that's one thing we'll talk a lot about is how skilled he is. And so I think it makes it enticing in that way.
Yeah, so just to keep you the buck with all you guys, I don't know much about Bol Bol. I don't think a lot of people know much about Bol Bol on the NBA landscape. Like Bryce said, he's extremely skilled. That's one thing that you'll hear from everyone that you talk to. He's an extremely skilled player. But coming into the draft, he ended up dropping in the draft, I believe, the 44th pick because of injuries. And then through 3 years in the NBA, he has only played in 53 games. So not great. And he's only played a total of, listen to this, 300, and this is not including playoff minutes. But he's played in 328 minutes through 3 seasons in the NBA. So, he doesn't have a much of a sample size at all. He was buried over there in Denver on the depth chart. They're a contending team. Obviously, they don't have time for developing or, that kind of thing. Also, it seems like a lot of Denver people, if you talk to some of them, they said that he had some questions with his motor over there. But once again, if you talk to anyone you talk to, they will say that he's an extremely skilled player. So I think one thing with this trade, first off, I want to say that they basically got him for free, in my opinion. Rodney McGruder meant nothing to the team, really. And this second-round pick was the second-round pick I believe they got in the Sekou Doumbouya trade in the offseason. So it's not their own draft. It's theirs, obviously, because they owned it. But it wasn't their original second round pick. It was the Brooklyn Nets second round pick, which will be late in the draft if Brooklyn Nets finish where you expect them to finish. So for a guy as skilled as Bol Bol and is as interesting of a prospect as Bol Bol, like you said, Bryce, this isn't just like I think this is a different type of swing that the Pistons are taking. They've taken swings on Josh Jackson, Jahlil Okafor, who are
Frank
some other
Jackson,
guys? Frank Jackson,
Dennis
Hamidou
Smith
Diallo,
Jr.
Trey Lyles, Dennis Smith Jr. Like they've taken swings on all those guys, but I feel like Bol Bol is a different type of swing. And me and you kind of talked about before the podcast, but I think he's a different type of a swing because of how skilled he is. And I don't want to take your words because you said this before the podcast, but I feel the exact same. I'll give you the floor to echo the same thoughts. Is that Bol Bol probably has a less likely chance of hitting where you want him to get than those guys. Some of those guys may have, but if he does hit, he hits different than those guys would have hit. That's what's interesting about him, and the fact that you got him basically for free it makes it incredibly interesting. And like you said, this wasn't just a swing for a guy like I said, Josh Jackson, Jahlil Okafor, Frank Jackson, Dennis Smith Jr., whatever. This is a guy who is extremely popular. He's extremely fun. Everyone loves Bol Bol. He's a very popular player, so it's a very fun swing that the Pistons are taking. And it brings a lot of excitement. Even if he doesn't hit, I mean, he hasn't been that great of a player so far in his NBA career, but he's so much of a fun experiment that's bringing that type of excitement already to the Pistons.
Yeah, I mean, people always say low risk, high reward. To me, there's no risk. Like it's not low risk, It's no. I did see someone bring up a good point in that you're taking the chance on him. So I guess the argument could be made that you could have taken a chance on somebody else that had a higher chance of being, a potential fit or a potential contributor. But if you type in Bol Bol, I just want to read a couple headlines. I won't go through the articles. Fansided from 2018. Bol Bol has star potential but needs to learn to play like one. Here was one from SBNation.com. Bol Bol sky-high NBA draft upside was well worth the risk. Clutch points. Bol Bol has superstar potential. So, this is a guy, it's not Frank Jackson where, maybe he turns into a rotation guy. Again, like you said, it's not a very high percentage, but there's a much better chance with him than any of these other guys that Troy Weaver's taking a chance on, that he's like a major contributor, has super potential if he stays healthy. And maybe this trade sends a message hey, you do have to figure out maturity. You do have to figure out you're playing hard. You do have to figure those things out. And if he does, it sounds like the skill level is all there for him to be that high level of a player.
Yeah, I just want to throw out there as well that his contract right now, he's under contract for one more year. He's being paid $2.1 million this year. He will have a qualifying offer at the end of this year going to the offseason that the Pistons can decide to pick up if they want. That would have a cap hold of, where to go? It would have a cap hold of $4.08 million after the year. So basically it's going to be a half a year experiment, kind of like Dennis Smith Jr., but I think Dennis Smith Jr. really didn't have much of a chance at all of really sticking around anyways. His position was clogged a little bit. I think Bol Bol actually has a chance to remain on the squad and pick up that qualifying offer. So we'll see how it goes when he gets here. But when we come back from the break, we'll talk about how does Bol Bol potentially fit into the lineup? Does he start? Does he come off the bench? Whose minutes is he getting? Where is he going to be used offensively? How is he going to be used defensively? All those things. We'll talk about all that when we come back from the break. But first, I got to tell you guys about one of our sponsors, one of you guys' favorite sponsors, Built Bar. It's the new year, so that means New Year's resolutions. If yours is about getting fit or eating healthier, make sure you include a Built Bar in your plan. Built Bar is the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar, maybe even better than a candy bar. Built Bar makes it easier to stick to your resolution because it tastes so good you'll want to eat it. Unlike other protein bars, which can be chalky or waxy or taste like a chemical spill. You want to eat healthy, but it just gets so boring. But like week 3, you might be thinking, this is just not worth it. Where's all the chocolate at? Well, Built Bars are covered in 100% real chocolate. Most Built Bars contain 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. Compare that to a candy bar, which usually has around 240 calories, 30 grams of sugar, and dozens of net carbs. So here's an idea for the new year. Go to all your secret treat stashes, at home, in the pantry, at the office, in the car, wherever. Throw out all the sugary and calorie-filled treats and replace them with Built Bars. So when you're craving a snack or a treat, you can reach for something that's healthy and tastes incredible. And there's many flavors to choose from. Coconut almond, peanut butter brownie, raspberry, cookies and cream, salted caramel, mint brownie, and many more. In fact, Built is always coming out with new limited time flavors, so check out Built.com often to see what's new. So go to Built.com, use our promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at Built.com. That's LOCK15 for 15% off at Built.com. Built Bar, the best tasting protein bar ever. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. And if you're listening to this on YouTube, and if you haven't checked out, or I guess I should say, or haven't checked out the YouTube channel, head over to the YouTube channel now at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. It's the best way to support the channel. But yeah, it's going to be a fun podcast today, man. Bol Bol, again, traded to the Pistons for Rodney McGruder and a second-round pick. I should say that is not, I guess, official yet. Michael Malone, of the coach of the Denver Nuggets, was not able to talk about it before the game today. It'll probably be finalized sometime. But I think it'll probably be finalized either the night we're recording this or the next day, the following morning, whatever, sometime around then. But it's not official yet, but it's happening. So, Bryce, where do you think Bol Bol fits in? Not just on the floor. Let's not get to the floor yet, but where do you think he fits in the rotation? Because according to Woj in his report, Bol Bol is going to have major minutes for the Pistons. They traded for him because he hadn't had much of an opportunity in Denver. He's going to get that opportunity, according to Woj and what he said, in Detroit. So, keeping that in mind, where do you think he fits in this rotation?
Yeah, so real quick, I just want to talk. You brought up Dennis Smith Jr. and Hami. Those were the two trades that Troy Weaver made last year. I think those two trades are vastly different. I think we both agree the Dennis Smith Jr. trade was about getting Derrick Rose to the New York Knicks and making him happy and goodwill
Correct.
and all of that stuff. And so I don't think Dennis Smith Jr. was necessarily a guy Weaver pinpointed and says, I want him on my team. Where Hami, I think, was because of the previous. And so I think that's where Bol Bol more fits into that. Like, I don't think that Troy Weaver was like purposely trying to move Rodney McGruder for some reason. So I do think Bol Bol will be in the lineup somewhere. I wrote out the depth chart, and I don't know who the odd man out is when the team gets healthy. So assuming they stay with kind of the starting lineup we've seen, Hayes, Cade, Hami, Bay, Stewart, and then you kind of go through the 3 through the 5. And Keith Black Trudeau has been adamant about this on Twitter today that Bol Bol is not your 5-man. He's not, he's not in direct competition with, say, Luka Garza at the 5. But if he's playing the 4, then what do you do with Trey Lyles? Now, I'm not saying that that's like should be the overwhelming decision, but is Lyles just going to be out of the rotation? Do they slide him to the 3? And play super big, which would be kind of fun. Kelly Olynyk's going to be back. And then does it mean that there's no minutes left for Luka Garza? So I agree with you. I'm just not sure how the roster is going to shake out whenever everybody's back.
So just to give some perspective on that, Bol Bol is 7'2", and he's listed at 220 pounds. But if you look at him, he's very skinny. I don't want to throw out this comparison because I know this guy is just he kind of lives in some Pistons fans' nightmares. But he's built very similar, I feel like, to Thon Maker. He's very slender. He's very tiny for his size. Bol Bol is more talented and more skilled, but he's tall and lengthy, but he's not very strong for his size at all. So I would be shocked if they played him at 5'2". But if they did it, I guess I could see it happening, but I wouldn't think that that's what they're planning on doing. Maybe like in a small ball lineup or something where they just say, screw it, let's go 5 out or something. But I feel like they could do that without playing him at 5. So I also don't think he's there at the 5. You bring up a good point. I don't know where. I believe the report. I believe that they're going to give him mega minutes, or I don't want to say mega minutes because that's going to sound like 40 minutes a night or something. But I think they're going to give him good minutes to play and earn his keep out here. But again, let's just go through the starting lineup. So you've got Killian Hayes, Cade Cunningham, Hamidou Diallo, Sadiq Bey, and Isaiah Stewart. That's 5 right there. And then you got the backup. Right now the backup guard situation is really confusing. So. But that doesn't really impact him anyway. So you got Corey Joseph or Saban Lee and Frank Jackson basically clogging up the 1 and 2 right there. The backup 3, I'm drawing a blank right now. We got Josh Jackson right now, correct?
Yeah, that's what I have written down on my depth chart.
Okay, and then at the 4, you got Trey Lyles, and the 5, you got Luka Garza. Is that what you're looking at over there?
That is what I have. I just know that Kelly Olynyk, I'm assuming, is returning sooner rather than later.
So this is where I'm at with it. I think before Olynyk comes back, I think they may go with Trey Lyles and Bol Bol and just have Lyles play center. and then put Bol Bol at the 4, because they've been running Lyles already at the 5 most of the time he's with Kelly Olynyk out. So I would figure that they probably would push Luka Garza. Excuse me, my voice is cracked. Luka Garza out and push him back down to the G League. Move Trey Lyles up to the 5 and have Bol Bol at the 4, and then really, I know Bol Bol probably isn't a 5, but then you're really interchangeable there on defense. I feel like you're probably just able to switch everything anyways. You probably would want, you probably would want Trey Lyles handling the 5 duties, but if they get switched in like a cross screen or anything like that, it's not like the end of the world, I'm assuming. But I think that's where I'm at right now with the rotation. But I do think it's interesting how they're going to make it work, because like you said, when Kelly Olynyk gets back, what does that mean for Trey Lyles then? Because it does sound like, from what Woj is reporting, that Bol Bol will be getting minutes. It's not going to be one of those things where he doesn't go without getting minutes. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do when Kelly Olynyk gets back, because that's going to have to take out somebody, and it looks like it probably is going to be Trey Lyles if the reports are true about Bol Bol getting minutes.
And we haven't even talked about Jeremy Grant. I think we're working under the assumption that Jeremy Grant gets traded, but if Jeremy Grant gets traded, at least somebody's coming back in return. Even if the major incentive ends up being a draft pick, and we don't have to get into all that right now, but some sort of player is going to come back just to match salaries. So that's not even including Jeremy Grant. I haven't dove into the film yet. I plan on to tonight and then through tomorrow and stuff. I'm really interested to see how well he plays on the perimeter, especially offensively, but of course defensively too, because he'd have to be able to guard. And I don't know if Casey's this outside the box, or if this is actually that outside the box, but I don't know that Bol Bol doesn't play like the 3 with Trey Lyles at the 4 and Olynyk at the 5. Like I know it sounds crazy and the listeners are going to think this is crazy, but I think that's a real possibility. I keep hearing guard whenever people talk about him. Guard skills. He can handle it. He shot in limited touches or attempts, but he shot over 52% from 3 in his 9 games at Oregon. In his career in the NBA, he's a 38% three-point shooter. So the guy can stretch the floor. There's clips of him handling it. So I think he's a little bit interchangeable with what you can do with him.
Yeah, and there was a time, like I believe this happened in the bubble with the Nuggets, where they were legit running out there, like Nikola Jokic, another, who was it? Was it Mason Plumlee? Was that when Mason Plumlee was still in the squad?
Yes.
Yeah, they were running Jokic, Plumlee, and Bol Bol out there, and Bol Bol basically was playing the 3 for some of those stretches. So again, from what I've heard from Denver people as well, also backs up what you're saying, that he has guard skills, and they've seen he wants to be a perimeter player. That was like kind of that can be viewed as a positive, but it can also be viewed as a negative, depending on how you want to look at it. Some Denver people said that's why he wasn't able to fit with the Nuggets, because he continued to view himself as a perimeter player. He didn't want to be down low. He didn't want to bang down low. He didn't really want to be a big guy. He wanted to play on the perimeter. So, but I do agree with you. I don't think Dwayne Casey is the coach that is that out of the box where you start seeing lineups like that out there. But who knows? Because, like I said, reports are out there that he will be getting minutes with the Pistons, a bigger opportunity to prove himself. If that happens, it's going to be interesting to see where they find these minutes at, especially when guys get back healthy. I will throw this out there to you, Bryce. I want to hear what your thoughts are about this. So I believe we both are under the assumption that Jeremy Grant will be traded. I don't believe that he's going to see the court again in a Pistons uniform. I think he'll be traded. I don't know if you agree with that. Do you agree with that statement?
I do agree with that.
Okay, so we both are under the assumption that Jeremy Grant will not play again for the Pistons. What do you think? Do you think that Trey Lyles and or Kelly Olynyk could be traded by the deadline? Do you feel like Trey Lyles, with the way he's been playing recently, could be working himself into, like, I don't know, maybe a second-round pick from somewhere? Do you think maybe that's what Troy Weaver's thinking about, that he can move one of these guys, one of these older guys? Trey Lyles isn't old, but he's older. Do you think that may be in the cards soon?
It's funny you bring this up. So I tweeted this out. I'm actually working on a Trey Lyles breakdown also. I started it today before all the Bol Bol stuff, and so I'll transition to Bol Bol, but I'll come back to Trey Lyles or work on him at the same time. But I thought about writing that in the article, and I was like, man, am I going to sound crazy saying that we may actually have a trade asset in Trey Lyles? But I don't think it's crazy to think that a contender who needs a backup 4 or a small ball 5, like, somebody's not trading for him to start, but somebody that has a hole in their second unit may be willing to part ways with the second round pick or another. I'm trying to think who would be the better comparison. of the guys that we've talked about, a Frank Jackson type guy, something like that, who they're not getting the minutes on their roster, and it's worth it to let that guy go and to bring in somebody like Trey Lyles. So I could see it, that's what's always interesting with these things, Koo. Like, there's so much information we don't know. There's so many other moves. And so I was going to ask you this question. I know we're up against the break, so we may have to answer it after, but do you think the Pistons make over or under 1.5 more trades before the deadline?
We can keep it going. Let's push this. We can push this segment on a little bit. I think they go over. I think they make so are we including this trade, or are we excluding this one?
No, excluding this one. And I think we both obviously, essentially the question is, do you think they make any trades other than the Jeremy Grant trade? I think that's really what the question is.
Yes, I do think they make another one. I don't know who will be. I think they're still probably looking to. I think they're looking to trade Josh Jackson. I think they're going to get rid of him. I do think that they obviously get rid of Jeremy Grant. And then I honestly, I do think that they have another trade up their sleeve somewhere with like Trey Lyles or Kelly Olynyk. I think it depends. I think Trey Lyles is the one likely to go if they can get like a second for him somewhere. Because with this trade, it just makes me think that they're going to need to clear out that spot somehow. I don't think they want to give it to Kelly Olynyk. And Bol Bol, like you said, and everyone's been mentioning, he's not a 5, so he's not going to cover that backup 5 minutes. And I think they've desperately needed Kelly Olynyk. And I've said on Twitter the last few days, I said on the podcast a few days ago, I think Kelly Olynyk should be starting when he returns, whenever he gets back into full shape, conditioning-wise, obviously, because when he comes back, he'll probably be like on a minutes restriction or something. But once he gets back conditioning-wise, I think Kelly Olynyk should start. So I think that just bumps Trey Lyles out of it a little bit. And again, I wouldn't go as far to call Trey Lyles some trade asset, but I think with the way he's played, you could possibly send him to a team like for a late second round pick or something, or like, I don't know, maybe you can trade him to a team and trade him to a team that you can just like waive a player in return and save some money or something like that, just to clear up a roster spot or clear up a rotational spot. I think something like that could happen with the way Trey Lyles is playing. I think as well. I think this is, you know what? You're right. Let's continue this into the second segment because the third segment, because there's a question now based off what you just asked me that I really want to ask you now and bring it to the table. So you guys stay tuned for what we'll talk about in the third segment. This is going to be interesting. But before we get into any of that, I got to tell you guys about one of our sponsors, BetOnline AG. BetOnline would like to wish you a happy new betting year as we continue our march to the playoffs and beyond. BetOnline remains the number one spot for all the best sports wagering action for 2022. New year and new updated desktop and mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus and your first deposit. Just use our promo code LOCKEDON to get started. From football, basketball, hockey, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games, don't wait to take advantage of all their amazing offers available for 2022. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports. So again, make sure you go check out their new updated desktop and mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus and your first deposit by using our promo code LOCKEDON. BetOnline, where the game starts. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, go to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit the subscribe button. It's the best way to support the podcast. But, okay, Bryce, I want to ask you this. So do you think this just popped in my head as I was talking. It just like snapped into my head real quick. I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Let me ask Bryce about it. So we've talked about it. The numbers with Trey Lyles on the floor for the Pistons have been good. It's much better than Isaiah Stewart. That's not saying that Trey Lyles is a bigger future in Detroit than Isaiah Stewart. Isaiah Stewart sucks. It's just straight up the numbers. I think we have a large enough sample size now to say that as much as we all hate watching Trey Lyles, the team is just better with him on the floor. Now, despite that, I've said this on Twitter. I think you quoted this. The team may be better with him on the floor, but he doesn't know how to reel it back. So a lot of these, it's almost like they're better with him on the floor by default, I feel like, basically, because he's the only person out there who can, like, handle the ball a little bit at the 5 or shoot the ball outside as the 5 or as a stretch 4 or whatever, and they just need spacing any way they can get it. Do you think there's any way, just ask you this, do you think there's any way that Troy Weaver also feels that way? Like he sees, okay, Trey Lyles is helping this team because they need spacing, and he brings some kind of ball handling as a big guy, something that we just don't have anywhere else. While he can do that, the way he plays hurts the team at sometimes. He doesn't know how to reel it in. He doesn't know how to take it easy. So instead of just rocking out Trey Lyles for the rest of the season, I'll go get someone who's younger who can basically do some of the same things Trey Lyles can do, and I'll move Trey Lyles away because some of the things Trey Lyles does hurts the team, or it's just like hard to watch. Now, I think I may be reaching with that. I'm reaching really hard with that, but it's something that just popped in my mind. What do you think about that?
So I would agree with you, other than one of the negatives I've seen with Bol Bol, just in the little bit I've done, is that he forces tough shots sometimes. So, but if you're Troy Weaver, obviously I think the fan base is going to enjoy watching and be more excited about watching Bol Bol play than Trey Lyles, and so maybe that's part of it. I think you bring up a good point, though, because, and it actually involves Trey Lyles still, the Trey Lyles signing made a whole lot more sense when Sekou got traded. Whenever we signed Trey Lyles, everybody's kind of like, what's this about? Why? And that happened before Sekou got traded. And so I think what you're saying is Weaver adding Bol Bol now, knowing that Trey Lyles, as I look at things, he's on a really good, possibly expiring contract. He makes like 2.5. It's a club option next year. So a team could, just not exercise that, let him go in the offseason. Like, whether it's him by himself or you attach him to Jeremy Grant, like that's a sneaky, decent trade asset. And so I think you may be onto something in general in terms of, is Bol Bol the replacement for those minutes? Because Weaver knows there's a more than likely chance that he'll move Trey Lyles before the deadline. I think that's fair.
All right, fair enough. I don't know. Do you have anything else you want to talk about with Bol Bol in general?
No, I mean, I'm excited because it's Bol Bol. He was a highly recruited guy coming into college. At one time, he looked like a super high draft pick. They invited him. I think I just saw like he was at in the green room or whatever they call it on draft night, and then he had to sit there till 44. I don't like to talk about like the character stuff, the hard work. Do they love basketball or not? I think that's so hard to judge from where we sit. But there's enough of those storylines that it'll be interesting because, as we know, that doesn't always go over well with Coach Casey. And so it'll be interesting to see how those two jive as well.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Now, before we transition, I told you guys we would transition to some Killian Hayes talk at the end. But I want to ask you this, Bryce, because with this Bol Bol trade, I feel like there's, and you kind of said it just now, I feel like there's more trades to come because of it. I feel like this is just like one of many things. It kind of like it makes sense, low risk, high reward swing. But then, like, when you put them on the roster, it's like, okay, well, like, who's losing minutes? Who's going where? So now I'm, like, interested to see, like, is there another trade up Troy Weaver's sleeve? And I just want to ask you this. Do you think it's at all possible? And just be creative with me here. Be creative with me here. Do you think there's any way possible that someone could be traded that we are not expecting that will be traded? Do you think there's like any way, like all of a sudden we may get an update that's like, oh God, we did not expect him to be included, whether it's included in a Jeremy Grant deal or he's just traded in general? Do you think there's anybody on the roster that will be, and who is it?
Yes. I'm interested to see what the package is for Jeremy Grant. Is it a smaller package that revolves just around him, or do they go for a big fish? And I don't know how realistic like a guy like Jaylen Brown would be, but that's the one I've kind of focused in on a little bit more. And obviously Jeremy Grant doesn't get that done, and we can't attach a first round pick. And so I don't even know if any of the sophomores, get it done if you attach them to Jeremy Grant. But I do think if they try, if Weaver really tries to go for it, I could see. I don't think he lets go of Sadiq Bey the way he's played the last couple of weeks. I wouldn't be shocked if Stu or Killian was attached, not on their own, but if they ended up getting attached to Jeremy Grant to bring in a really good player.
All right, fair enough. I just think it's interesting. I'm playing with ideas in my head, so I don't know if it's gonna happen or not. But if there was one player that would like pop off the screen, like I look at my phone, it's like, oh God, I didn't expect the Pistons to trade him. The one person that I'm moving towards, it's not Killian, because I don't think Killian has any kind of value right now. So I don't think even attaching him to anything would basically be like this, a net zero. I don't think that Troy Weaver also wants to move Sadiq either. I think he probably wants to hold on to Sadiq. I think Stu is the person I could see him being traded, but I would be shocked if they put him in. He's the one player on the roster where it's like you don't expect him to be moved, but I could see somewhere. I could see him possibly being moved if he's attached to something. Even though I'm not sure even if he moves the needle more, like he probably moves it more than Killian, but like how much more really? So
Yeah,
I don't know. I just thought it was interesting.
That's so to plug. You taught me how to do this. To plug Motor City Hoops, not this week, but next week, we're bringing on Jared Greenberg from NBA TV, NBA on TNT, and that's one of the biggest things I want to get from him as someone who just covers the NBA in general is what do just non-biased fans of the NBA or what do people think about these sophomores? What are the values of these guys? Because you're the one that taught me this also. We always overvalue our own players. We watch them night in and night out. We see what they do best, and we don't know the ins and outs of other teams enough to know. Stu may be a great value to a team that needs only what Stu does, which isn't going to be a great pick and roll guy, isn't going to be a great offensive guy in general, but will great offensive rebounds, will play hard, is switchable, yada, yada, yada. That might be a great value. That might be the one missing piece for some team trying to win a championship. And so you never know those things with those guys and those other teams. So that's why trade deadline's always fun.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. The final month, Pistons get in early with the trade of Bol Bol. They trade Rodney McGruder in a second-round pick. It's going to be interesting. Don't know when he'll be playing his first game. The Pistons play a back-to-back, and then they play again on Friday. Don't know if he even plays this week with the trade not being official yet, apparently. But I think earliest would be Friday, and then I think the next quickest would be, I don't know when they play out there again. What is it, Monday they play again after Friday?
Or Tuesday?
Either way, I think the game after Friday was probably the most likely time you see him play because we gotta wait for the trade to become official.
Sunday, then
Sunday?
Tuesday. Yeah,
Okay,
Sunday's
so
the
Sunday.
makeup Suns game.
Okay, so Sunday I think is probably the most likely scenario you see him play. But we're wrapping up at the end here, so I wanted to get some thoughts real quick, Bryce, on Killian Hayes. He's been a hot rod of a topic all season, basically, even in the offseason, but things have especially picked up as of late. Just where are you right now with Killian Hayes? Not going to bring up any of the comments that have been said by some fans or some writers or some analysts or all this stuff. Just where are you at right now with Killian Hayes? You don't have to go for some long soliloquy with it. Just where are you at right now with him?
Yeah, real quick, Klay Thompson got a bucket. I know he's not some Pistons fan.
Oh, there you go. Yes, I was actually paying attention to that.
Yeah,
on my phone.
I know some fans don't love him because of the comments and all that stuff, but he's a really good player and he's at a tough road. So I just wanted to give a shout out real quick there. Killian Hayes, Saturday night, I didn't think he was bad as what people said. Like I watched that game afterwards and I thought he did good stuff. Like we've talked a lot about him playing off ball. And I do think he can be successful. I think he has the tools to be successful if the jump shot gets there. But there's also a mentality piece, and you have to have the right mentality to be successful in the role that you're asked to be in. And this isn't a knock on Killian. If he's grown up having the ball in his hands, it's really hard to then become an off-ball player. I would really like to see the ball in Killian's hands for long stretches of games, multiple possessions in a row, and just find out. Like, let's just find out if he can do it or not. And it may be a disaster. It may be. Maybe he turns it over. Maybe he can't make shots. Maybe it's a disaster. I think in the limited reps we see, I think he makes good decisions. I thought he made a lot of really nice plays in ball screens last night. But right now, Cade's dominating the ball, and I have no problem with that. Cade Cunningham's the number one pick in the future of the franchise. So we got to find a different way to stagger. To me, it comes back to staggering minutes. Whichever way you do it, I don't care who runs with the twos. He doesn't have to become part of the second unit. Stagger the minutes and put the ball in his hands, and let's see. Because in small sample sizes, we see the highlight passes, the vision, all of that stuff. I just want to find out.
So do you feel like this was something I saw someone say on Twitter, and I hadn't thought about it for a second, but then I started rethinking some games and some of the things I don't know about you, but I've told you guys who listen to this, one of the things I love watching for, and it's the reason why I caught Hami flipping out with Dwayne Casey on the side, or Killian being frustrated after like a benching or whatever. I always watch, like, not just the ball. I'd be watching players like reactions to things and what their emotions are, whatever. Someone brought up that they feel like it seems like that Killian's frustrated with his lack of on-ball touches. Do you feel like have you seen that, or do you think that's just something you have to watch for moving forward to see if that's true, or do you feel like it's in your memory you've seen, like, you see stuff like that as well?
So again, I try not to get into that stuff too much, but I will say there's a very distinct, because I was watching Killian very close when he was on the floor based off the Twitter feed and then getting to watch the game. Sometimes that's the nice thing about watching it after it's, shown live. So I watched him very close, and I specifically remember a possession where he didn't touch the ball and he felt like he should have, and it translated to a not very good possession on the defensive end. And I think a lot of people would have to admit that he's a good defensive player. He is. And so that to me was a sign of frustration. Now, it didn't continue. It didn't last more than one possession, but you did notice on the ensuing possession, like a little less effort and focus and intensity. And so, yes, like, and I get it. If he's I don't know his whole history. I'm not going to pretend that I did any scouting of him before he came in the league. But if he's used to playing with the ball in his hands, that's not an easy transition to now go, stand in the corner, as people say. And so, again, I would just like to see it. I'd like to see him get those opportunities. And if he falls on his face, then at least the Pistons know, and we as fans know.
Fair enough. So that's we're at 36 minutes, so I guess I'll wrap it up a little bit with this. I just want to see the ball in his hands more. I don't think he was as bad as people try to say he was the other night. I think it's gotten to a point now, though. I feel like he's not as bad as people say, but I think it's because like they want more from him. So anytime he doesn't hit what like the other night, what was it? He had like 5, 3, and 2, whatever, and like 50% shooting. Like he didn't shoot the ball a ton, but that's basically like what he is right now. Like he's not actively hurting the team, but I guess you can't say he's actively helping the team. It's like he's just out there right now. So I guess that's why people are so frustrated with it, because I don't think he's actively hurting the team out there. Like I tweeted out like his net rating and his on-off rating. Like he's a minus 2.2 right now, I think, on-off. But everybody's like down there because the team's losing. So I don't think there's many people who. I think there's only one player. I think it was Trey Lyles who had a positive on-off difference. So he's not actively hurting the team. He's just not actively helping it. He needs the ball in his hands. Me and you've talked about it many times before on the podcast that he looks like he's developing as an off-ball player. Actually, if you look at a synergy chart, the one thing that it says that he's really good at is cutting off the ball. He's in the 54th percentile. Yeah. They have it rated as good. So it's like that's the one thing that they say, according to like points per possessions, that he's actually good at. But this is like what I'll say right here. His usage rate last year as a rookie was at 19.0%. That's not some insane usage percentage. That's just like base. That's like, I think that's just like normal usage rate, I guess, for like a point guard, I guess, that brings the ball up the court, whatever. This year he's at 14.2. Like he has had a massive drop off. Like this isn't just okay, he needs to learn how to play off ball. Like he has exclusively become an off ball player. Before the season, I feel like we were talking about, okay, how will him and Cade share the ball? How will they fit together? It's strictly become, how does Killian Hayes fit with Cade? It's not even close to the other way around. He's been exclusively put the off ball. And I said this on Twitter, and I guess this is like will be my last comments on it, is that I don't know if I think he can be a good player. I'm very high on Killian. I believe in Killian. But if he does reach where I believe he can be, I don't know if it's going to be in Detroit, because it won't happen this way. Like 100% he has to be an off-ball player. 100% he needs to learn how to do that stuff. I feel like he is getting better at that. He actually is. But exclusively as an off-ball player, he's not going to become a good player doing that. I don't think that's possible. So I'm not saying he will become a great player like I think he could be. He may become a bust. But I feel like his only chance of becoming the player I think he could be, there's no chance of it happening with the way he's being used right now. And this is just some interesting stat I'll throw out there, Bryce, and I'll let you finish it off. I was our friend Hal, friend of the podcast we just had on like last week. He tweeted out something I had no idea about, but I thought it would be interesting to show everybody here. If you go to Synergy right now and you look at Cade Cunningham's reps as a pick and roll ball handler, right now he ranks in the 25th percentile and he's scoring 0.70 points per possession as a pick and roll ball handler. Now, I want to say this real quick. Cade is great. He's the best. He's going to be the best player for the Pistons. I think he's the best player in the draft. I absolutely love Cade. This is just perspective I'm bringing. So that's where Cade is right now. 0.70 points per possession as a ball handler. Killian Hayes in, what is it? Over 115 less possessions as a pick and roll ball handler is producing the exact same points per possession as a pick and roll ball handler. So it's on a much smaller sample size, but they're producing basically the same result as a ball handler. So I don't get I'm not asking for the ball to be taken out of Cade's hands. My thing is I don't understand why when they stagger him, he's still not getting the ball. Cade, Killian, when he's not with Cade, why is he still not getting the ball? Because he's basically producing the same type of results as Cade's doing. So I don't know. You don't need to make him a focal point of the offense, but I think it's drifted way too far to one extreme right now with him on the offensive end, and it's kind of hard for me at least to see. It's kind of hard for me right now to say that he's not like actively trying to contribute when it seems like that the majority of play sets and the majority of the way he's being used is just off ball when I don't feel like that's who he is.
Yeah, I'll just say real quick. One, we continue to talk about it. Stagger their minutes, let Killian play on ball, dominate it. And then also, I don't think it would hurt to play Cade off the ball some more reps. I thought we'd see much more of Cade off the ball than what we've seen. I know he needs on ball reps to get better in pick and roll and all of that, but I don't think it stunts his growth just because you're putting Killian on ball at times whenever they're out there together. So those two things, stagger him and let Cade play off ball a little bit more. I don't think that hurts him at all.
Do you think that, quick yes or no, do you think that benching Killian would actually get him more reps as a ball handler? My answer was that I would be fine with doing that if I believed that would lead to him touching the ball more. I've seen them stagger him and Cade, and even when he's not on the floor with Cade, he still goes over in the corner and basically spots up. So do you believe that would lead to more chances with him with the ball in his hands?
I would just say I don't think that's necessary. Like, again, I know we keep bringing up the same word, but just stagger their minutes. Sub him out with 6 minutes to go in the first quarter, set him till the start of the second quarter, and then let him run the second unit for the first 6 minutes of the second quarter, and then the fourth quarter. That's 12 minutes where he gets to dominate the ball. That's plenty of possessions where he gets the usage that we all want. So I think it would be an unnecessary move unless you just think somebody else is going to play that much better next to Cade.
All right, fair enough. We'll see how it goes. This was a longer episode, but we had a lot of Bol Bol to talk about, and Killian Hayes was dominating the community over the past 3 days. It was just nonstop chatter by him, so we had to talk about that. So I hope you guys appreciate the longer episode. I'm sorry about it, but we had a lot to talk about. Thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We're free and available on all your podcast platforms. Make sure you go check out our YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Make sure you make your second listen of every day Locked On Bets, your daily one-stop shop for all your gambling needs, hosted by your boy Q with expert analysis and insight from Lee Sterling. It's free and available on all your platforms. Make sure you guys also go check out Bryce and his podcast, the Motor City Hoops podcast. Make sure you go check him out on Twitter at Motor City Hoops. And until the next podcast, have fun watching the game tonight, Monday, 7 p.m. Have fun with it. Until the next podcast, I'll see you guys later. Stay safe, everybody. Peace out.